One of the biggest problems that dentists face right now, though, is a lot of dentists can't even retain their team. You can't have somebody who's being replaced every month, right? Because if you're doing that, it takes them months to get up to speed to do things properly.
That's very accurate. I put that as kind of a chore for me to do as a leader. And instead of just feeling, I love that you use that word, don't just, oh, I'm the dentist, oh, I'm just the owner, but you actually take on that ownership role of kind of leading a team.
The dental industry is drastically short on team members, and there's tons of people who are like, I'll pay you anything, just come work for me. But maybe it's a horrible work environment, right? I would say that you figured out something that works for you, that works for your team. And that's really powerful because it sounds like it's also impacting your patients as well. Welcome back to another episode of Dental Marketing Go. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the founder of SMC National, where we help you create, convert, and close more new patients so you can grow the way that you want, but you cannot grow if you don't keep your team. Today, I have Dr. Sarah from San Diego, and she's going to break down how she's retained her team and builds awesome systems for her patients to feel loved and appreciated, and even more importantly, how her team feels appreciated and how that all works together and how she's leveling up as a leader. I promise you, if you're a dentist and you're trying to build something special, this is going to be something that you have to understand, and you're going to get a lot of value out of this. Stay tuned. All right, we are live with Dr. Sarah, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you today. And I'm going to ask you just right out of the box, what is the number one thing that you're seeing right now that's driving the most growth for your practice?
Gosh, great question. I think we are in a time period where really the whole team is something that is super important, I think, to patients. So one of the things I hear the most commonly said thing to me is not necessarily just about my dentistry or about the cost or about the location or about the look of the office, although I love hearing all those things, but it really comes down to they like that each person that they were passed off to, everybody is on the same thing. So from the first person that answered the phone to my person who's bringing them back, following the treatment, passing it off to me, the hygienist, I've really worked hard, and I would say the last year or two, and this is my 22nd year of being a dentist, where that portion of my life is really important to me. And I think it's showing itself completely as far as how the growth of the practice has gone. Through referrals, of course, is going to be huge. So I would say that's probably my number one thing. There's probably 20 things that I think are really making the practice.
But you would say that's at the top of your list?
That's at the top of my list, definitely. I think it's how you speak to your staff, how you talk. They are my team. I don't actually even use the word staff anymore. I would say they are part of my team from the first person to the end. Nobody did all the collections. Nobody did all the production. Nobody did all of the cleaning of the room. All of us did. And without all of us really working together, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of times people don't realize it's kind of like going to a restaurant, right? And I know you're in San Diego and you have great restaurants down there. You go to the most amazing restaurant, you have reservations at 6, you go in and there's this huge line. You have to wait longer than your reservation. You sit down, the food takes forever to come out. It's amazing food, but the waiter's rude to you and they end up charging you more than you thought they should have charged you. Even though the food might be amazing, the rest of your experience wasn't.
Yeah.
And you're probably not going to go back there, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just the chef or the dentist, and it's not just the waiter or the waitress or the waiter. It's everybody else involved. If the plate comes out and it's dirty and the dishwasher didn't do their job, it's going to mess up your dinner, right? So there's so many things that have to work right to make that amazing. Now, one of the biggest problems that dentists face right now, though, is a lot of dentists can't even retain their team, because to have that seamless flow that you're talking about, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got something really, really important to share with you that's going to bring massive impact to your practice. So every year, things change in your market. Every single year, people move, incomes change, populations change, and it's really important that you stay up to date with that. And one of the things that we offer to all of our customers, and we want to offer it to all of our listeners completely for free, is mapping out your new patients. So we're not going to only show you where your new patients are coming from on a map, just like this above, but we're also going to show you the income areas that they're coming from, the different pockets of income, as well as the populations, to make sure that you have supporting areas to where you can attract more new patients. And lastly, we're going to map out all of your competition for you for free. This is 100% for free, no obligation. And we're really excited to share this with all of our listeners. So all you have to do is go to maps.smcnational.com, and it's first come, first serve. We're not going to offer this forever. So if you want to get this, get in now, get all your new patients mapped out for the new year. We're looking forward to talking to you soon. Thanks. You can't have somebody who's being replaced every month, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're doing that, it takes them months to get up to speed to do things properly. So how have you retained your team? Like how have you done that part?
Another good question. I would love to say that it has to do with the finances, what I offer. And yes, I have improved that. I think that I had to. I started to feel like as an office, and every office is different, right? Some of us have small practices, some of us have big practices, some of us are in there 5 days a week. So it really just have to cater to what your specific style of practice is. I do try to make sure that mine are really seen, heard, and financially, compensated well. I'm in an expensive area here in San Diego, so I kind of have to make sure that they can survive and eat. Most of them are driving far to see me just because I am in a higher income bracket location, which even that makes it a little bit more challenging. So I think for my team members, if I narrowed it down, it would be there's a great book out there about playing to your strengths, right? Finding what you're great at, what really just gets your business going. And some of them, I can pick one of my RDAs. Man, she's good at lab case management. I'm not kidding you. The woman's got it figured out. There's a post-it note. There's a time. There's a slot. She knows where everything is and where it's all going. And so her taking that burden on for our team and us knowing that she's great at it, one, made all the rest of us happier, and two, let her thrive in what her item is, right? So, and I think all of us have that spot where there becomes kind of that sweet spot, whether it's the temporary, whether it's the patient communication. So letting them have that window and kind of like supporting them, because I do think a lot of team members, we forget as a dentist that this is also their profession. We kind of think we're like, oh, here's us with our profession and these people work for them. But this is their lifelong job. This is what they're striving for. And they want to be better every year. They want to grow in something. So whether that's they're going to get better at their scanning, their digital smile design. And I would say as a dentist, a lot of us, we need to know how it works first, and then we need to show somebody. And it took me a while to be like, okay, like maybe they're even better at that than I. like, how about I learn, and so I know what can go wrong and how to help support them. But the truth is kind of finding that little portion where somebody up front, maybe one of them is just better at insurance, one of them's better on the phone, and really just pushing them into that so they feel fulfilled in their daily life and they want to come to work for that reason. Yeah.
So like having their superpower, right? That's the best way I've ever heard it explained, is like everybody has a superpower and they're good at something. And so letting them be the owner of that, because here's the tricky part with leadership is like, if I'm the leader and I'm like, okay, I need you to do this, and here's how to do it and when to do it and where to do it, it's really my idea. And if it fails, you're like, well, Gary, you're the one that came up with the idea.
Yeah.
But if I give it to Sarah, Dr. Sarah, and I say, okay, this is your baby, you take care of it, you figure out the best. So here's some guidelines or some rails to keep it within, but I really want to see what you can do with this, and then come back with your ideas. All of a sudden they're like, they take ownership of it and it becomes their thing.
Yeah.
And there's a feeling of belonging in that, right? Because then it's like, well, Sarah, you did such a good job with this that it really impacted, Rudy, and Rudy is now doing a better job at converting more patients because you did a great job of whatever, you know what I mean? So everything plays together, and it creates a much better work environment than everybody's segmented, everybody breaks apart, and they're kind of siloed, and it's, that architect of, it just feels rougher, right?
Yeah.
It feels rougher. So that is such a good point. I love the way you articulated that. And I love the way that you found that in your team, because it sounds like some of it you might have stumbled on, but then some of it you got really intentional about. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate. I put that as kind of a chore for me to do as a leader. And instead of just feeling, I love that you use that word. I think instead of, I'm sure I feel it all the time. Let's be realistic. We're all still humans, and we're all still just trying to be better at what we're doing and what our daily life looks like. But I think that if you don't just, oh, I'm the dentist, oh, I'm just the owner, but you actually take on that ownership role of kind of leading a team. It's a different part that I think that most of us don't necessarily have. And then many times we put that role maybe out of the office manager. We're like, hey, go complain to them, let them figure it out. But I don't know if that really always works. And maybe it does for some people. Maybe they don't feel that need to be that leadership role. Then they're like, let me find the leader. This is the person that's going to do it for us. Then do that. In my group and in my setting, me kind of being that leadership role of trying to kind of mitigate and keep everybody on the same page and inspire them has worked in my office. And again, I think that that's probably very different in everybody's office. But for me, it didn't work well to kind of have that other person that was the office manager where everybody kind of like complained to them necessarily. And then the dentist just floated over here somewhere. That just wasn't our version of a team.
So do you have an office manager, or do you act kind of in that office manager role?
I'm going to say I act in that office manager role. I'd say we have a front office team, and our front office team is going to have appointment schedulers, treatment plan coordinator, and an insurance person focused on insurance. So where people really do have their own individual role, but they encompass the front office team. And then I'm going to say we have the back office team, and then we have our providers. We have in my office, that looks like 3 hygienists and myself, and I consider us the ones that are the providers of services, but then we've got all of our team that's supporting us in the back and supporting us in the front. And that works good for me. I hope it works well for my team. I guess I should ask them if they like the version.
No, it sounds like if they're staying with you, if they're the leading indicator, or I should say the lagging indicator, if it's working or not, is if they're staying with you, right?
Yeah.
Because right now there's the dental industry drastically short on team members. And there's tons of people who are like, I'll pay you anything, just come work for me. But maybe it's a horrible work environment, right? Or maybe it's whatever. So I would say that you figured out something that works for you, that works for your team.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful because it sounds like it's also impacting your patients as well.
It is. So, and I do think, what you just said as far as finding people that will work for you, what's funny is I would actually say over the last year or two, I keep finding people that want to work in my job. And then awesome. I'm trying to find them a spot. Like, I'm like, you're a great hygienist. Okay, let's figure it out. Let me go buy some more of practice and merge it into mine and find a way to build it and find a spot for you. Because there are these people that are very skilled and awesome that then I just know they're going to fit in the team, and we're literally going to find a way to make the team work around that.
That's so cool. Yeah. Right now, like the general state, I talk to hundreds of dentists, just doing different podcasts and different events and things like that every single month. And then I also talk to lots of team members as well. And right now, a lot of people are just like, I'll do anything to get any hygienist, right? And so if you have people coming to you saying, hey, I want to be a part of that, that's huge, because that means your team's going and talking with other people. That's what's happening. And what most dentists don't realize is the reason you can't find a hygienist is because your team has already told everybody, this is not a great place. I'm just biding my time or whatever. Because they all talk right now, right?
Yeah.
We're all on social media.
Yeah, they do. Oh, of course.
It would take me, I found you through a DM, right? Like, hey, Dr. Sarah, love what you're doing. Let's talk. So you're in San Diego. I'm in I'm 2 hours from you, but we were able to connect instantly. And people, a lot of leaders don't understand that it's so easy to connect now. So that can either work in your favor and you're like, oh, these people just found us, or it can work against you. Like, no one's responding to anything that I try. Even no matter how much money I offer or what perks I offer, I can't get a hygienist or a dental assistant or, the front desk person. And then a lot of times what ends up happening is people, they're like, well, no one wants to work. And it's like, well, no, I'm just talked to Dr. Sarah and she's doing well with this. So there's so many opportunities to level up from that perspective. What would be, if someone out there is listening to us and they're like, you know what, I've struggled with this. I'm a doctor. I've really struggled with this. And you heard me give both sides of the story. What would you tell them to kind of figure this out or be able to navigate this?
Oh gosh. I mean, to find a way to navigate because I do hear that a lot. And I do hear from hygienists as far as that there are the fees are out of control, especially here in California. What we're expecting to pay someone, it's like
It's bad.
basically we're doing the cleaning for free, and sometimes even losing money, which is extra fun when you're like, so we actually just paid them to come get their teeth cleaned. That makes sense. So
yeah, because what is it, like $70 an
yeah,
hour
I mean,
in California? $80 an
yeah,
hour
I mean,
or
it's
something like that?
crazy. It can range somewhere from 55 to 75, I hear. So, I do think it's important to have a team where they do also know the numbers, and they want me to succeed just as much as I want them to succeed. I mean, I'm only going to succeed as far as they do. I don't, again, my hygienists, I consider them providers. They are like an associate. They've got some skin in the game, and they're meant to give the best quality service to a patient. And if you haven't trained your team to know what the best quality is, that's probably mistake number one. Because my team knows that there should be a CBCT of an endo tooth every now and then. My team knows that they're supposed to have a retainer or a night guard over an implant tooth. My team knows that we're going to be breaking down front teeth and putting fillings on them all the time if they don't put their bite in the right spot. So I think some of that comes down to like really wanting your team to know I want the cleanest, best teeth in all of my town. And hopefully we're kind of inspiring that. So I think finding the right people, asking your assistants who they've worked with, asking your hygienists who they've worked with. Most people that come to work for me worked with somebody else in my team somewhere else, and left that other office. And usually why they left that other office is, I'm going to say the number one thing, feeling like things changed a lot and that they weren't heard. So they didn't really feel like there was like a concise, here's our game plan and here's where we're going and here's what we're building. But they felt like it was like, oh, this week, now so-and-so is doing this and now so-and-so is doing that. And it was changing on them a lot. And I have heard that one a lot. So I do go to bed at night thinking like, okay, don't change anything.
Well, so a strength something that takes great restraint for an entrepreneur is not to change things. That is actually, because when we first start in business, that's what makes us successful, right? Is that I'll do whatever you want, Mr. Patient or Mr. Client, like whatever you want for any price, because I just need somebody to come here. And so that's what makes you successful at first. And you have to build this following, or you build your patient base. And then it's like, well, then I start adding team members into the mix and adding more people into the mix. It gets much more complicated, and you can't 100%. Change all the time. And you have to pull back on those reins. Like that's my number one thing that I constantly have to remind myself is, Gary, have I already talked to the appropriate people? Have I already connected with the people I need to connect with to make sure that this isn't going to rock the boat? I have 80 team members, right? So it's like, and we're all virtual. So it's like, it's so easy for me to just drop a Slack message and cause massive chaos. And I have to really restrain myself. Have you had to learn how to do that? Or is that something you naturally do?
You're absolutely right. Because I actually feed and feel most comfortable on the drive and the change. So that to me feels really good. Like, I'm like, what can I buy next? What can I change next? How about we try that? The idea that I'm supposed to pick up the same handpiece every day, use the same cement every day, have my Starbucks or my McDonald's version of what feels consistent and good is actually fairly uncomfortable for me. So I have to find ways. I have to like remodel things.
So how do you do that? How do you innovate without disrupting your team?
So then? I think what I needed to do then is that I needed to shift that focus of that need for uneasiness and motivation and making things better to focus it more on that leadership role, and more like, that's what I meant by like, that was where my focus was the last year and a half, was not making them happy, but making them happy, making them feel seen, making sure, I'm not a great gift giver. I don't love to do it. I don't even like getting gifts. I'm kind of a minimalist.
Me too.
So I have to put an effort into being like, oh, dude, don't forget the birthday. Like, that to somebody else is important. And I had to learn, and I had to train myself as to what felt good to people and what felt most natural to them, and how to kind of navigate that. So I guess to answer the question, how I found to get rid of my nervous energy of wanting to change and inspire and keep getting better and bigger, and how do I get more, and how do I fill in more space, was to just kind of shift that over to a different version. And my version was inspiring and making the team better. and more
That's really
proficient in
good.
it. Yeah. Because otherwise I'd be like, where do we buy the next thing? And where's the next block? And how do I get 1,000 more
Because
patients?
we're comfortable there. Entrepreneurs are comfortable.
Yeah.
We're more comfortable in the change than in the consistency.
100%.
But most of our team members are not comfortable in that. There's a book called The E-Myth, and it breaks down. It has the technician, the entrepreneur, and the leader. And the technician is like a dentist, like getting good at doing fillings, like where you're just like the best at it and the most consistent. And then you have the entrepreneurs where you learn how to make money off of that skill, not just by a paycheck, but actually building a business.
Yeah.
But then the third one, and the hardest, I think, is learning how to be a leader. And what most dentists and even marketers or anybody else out there in the dental world or business world is that we think at first, and I thought this, because I'm a good marketer, I then am going to be a good entrepreneur and therefore a good leader, but they're actually not connected at all. They're just different skill sets. Very
true. Yeah. And learning to kind of sit in that one little zone. Like I kind of compartmentalize it a little bit. I'm sitting in the zone of, I recently purchased another practice and blended and all that. And that was that window. Like I gave myself that 6 months to be like, okay, let's put our focus right here in this form of entrepreneur. And hopefully what I worked on about the leadership kind of just follows me in with it. But kind of having those versions of like timing where you intentionally put that effort into where you need to be with your practice. Yeah.
So good. Dr. Sarah, this has been amazing. Yeah.
This
has been so good. If, yeah, it is. It is tiring. It is tiring, but it's rewarding.
Absolutely.
It's rewarding, especially when your team appreciates you.
Yeah.
It's one thing when your patients appreciate you. It's another thing when your team and your patients appreciate you. There's a whole nother level of gratitude that brings. And I can see that on you. I can see that you feel that. And that's amazing when you get to that place. So kudos to you. Not a lot of doctors have figured that out. And it sounds like you have. So thank you so much for coming on today. You did an amazing job.
Thanks.
If people want to connect with you on social media, what's the best way to connect with you?
So I do really enjoy, one of my favorite parts to my social media is actually other dentists. So I think it is such a fantastic platform for it. Most of us didn't start on social media. We thought it was going to be to get other patients, and little did we know it actually was to make us a way better business person. Of course, it does help my practice quite a bit as well. I'm going to say that just in my community and them seeing me as a person and on a daily basis and how much I love dentistry. That has skyrocketed how people walk through my doors when they see on social media how much fun I think teeth are and how I like being it. So reach out to me at sarah.the.dentist on Instagram. That's my easiest way. And then one of my things I'd love to inspire, this one's unfortunately going to be for the females in the room. I am part of a group called Guiding Leaders through Glidewell. They pick 25 women once a year and they train you. You don't pay, you just show up. Speaking, business, leadership, writing, putting more women on the platform so that we can better help educate other dentists, and then also just mentoring. So, finding 25 new best friends that are dentists from across the US. So they're actually accepting applications right now for next year. So I would highly suggest to reach out to me or to apply to that. From the young dentist to the more seasoned. I mean, I'm in the 22nd year of being a dentist, but there was ones in there that were in their first 5. So everybody is a good fit for it. So reach out to me and I'm happy to kind of help somebody along with that for sure. Or even just to kind of, if you got to complain, and I mean, I don't want to use the word bitch on here. I don't know if I'm allowed to, but if you need that dentist where you're like, holy crap, this just happened to me. Where am I going? I think that's what we need to be for each other. It's lonely when you're the leader version. We don't get to complain necessarily to our staff. So I think we need each other for that.
100%.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Dr. Sarah, I really appreciate you coming on and just being honest and vulnerable and straightforward. Really, really good stuff. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it too. Thanks.